What is up, everybody? Louis back here again. Got a fun night of fights. Not the most important card, but we got a banger. 170 pounds men's welterweight. Number 10, Vicente Luque taking on Rafael dos Anjos, unranked, trying to make a second run at a title. Vicente Luque's got a lot to prove, coming off the knockout loss to Jeff Neal, so should be fun. Both guys like to throw down. Both guys are violent. Should be a fun fight. And then in the co-main event, we got another fun one. You got Cub Swanson taking on Hakeem Dawodu. Featherweight Dawodu looking to make a comeback. Disappointing performance against Juliana Rosa. And Cub Swanson just trying to look for another win. Coming back up from bantamweight. My most anticipated matchup, though, the feature fight of the night at light heavyweight, 205 pounds. You got Khalil Rountree taking on Chris Daukaus. Chris Daukaus making his 205 debut, coming off of a 3-fight losing streak from heavyweight. Let's see what can happen. Khalil Rountree, he's been on a little bit of a murder spree, had a tight one. His last fight with Dustin Jacoby. Maybe he can get a big knockout here and regenerate some hype. So, should be a fun card. It's decent. Let's get right into it. First fight of the night at 125 pounds. Women's flyweight, Juliana Miller taking on Luana Santos. Juliana Miller took on Veronica Machado her last fight in the first round. She gets dropped with a counter hook whenever she's loading up. But then she lands a jab to the collar tie. But then she eats a counter hook, just going into her a little too much, leaving her chin open. And then she gets a clinch to the fence, and she pulls her on top of her by accident. Kind of goes for a triangle, but not really. Tries an armbar, but didn't really have it too secured. Then in the second round, she blitzes to the clinch. She tries to go for a back trip, but then she gets stopped. But he gets stopped, and she goes up the bottom and tries to go for the armbar. It doesn't work. Not a good attempt. Then she gets a body lock to the fence, and then they get into a little bit of a scramble. She rolls for the armbar yet again. She keeps going for the armbar. Bad ring IQ. And the third round, she misses the lunge jab. She gives up her back, and she gets taken out with an outside trip. It goes for a knee bar attempt, but not really close. And then she just kind of walks into a head kick at the end of the round. So, I don't know. And then Luana Santos took on Waleska Souza, her last fight in LFA. In the first round, she clinches her to the fence. She gets rushed with some hooks, but then she's able to complete the double leg off of that. In the second round, she gets pressed with a combo, but then she's able to get the double leg takedown right in the half guard. And then she's able to get another double off of the blitz. So she's looking for these takedowns. And Juliana Miller gets taken down. And then in the third round, she shoots an extended single, but then she's able to knee slide up and actually finish the shot. She gets caught in a guillotine, but she's able to get into full guard, lands some ground and pound, gets the side control, is able to win. Not a ton of damage, but she gets it done. Pretty solid control on the ground. Luana Santos minus 150, Juliana Miller plus 125. I'm going to go with Luana Santos. Juliana Miller, her IQ is just bad. And Luana Santos looks like she has pretty solid wrestling. And Juliana Miller kind of throws wild sometimes. I think Santos is just going to be able to get her on the ground. Controller, Miller has the opportunity for a submission off her back. I just don't know. The line's not too bad. I'm going to go with Luana Santos on this one. Second fight of the night at 135 pounds. Men's bantamweight, Damon Blackshear taking on Jose Johnson. Blackshear took on Luana Serta his last fight in the first round. He lands a lead hook off of the front kick. And then he walks into an overhand, but then he's able to get the clinch. He's able to defend a leg lock attempt, so he's all eyes and ears. Then he gets a single foot, picks it up, sweep, and then he's able to land a lead hook at range. Back on the feet, and then in the second round, he lands a straight combo, a couple uppercuts at range. He's able to stop the trip attempt. He's able to defend the leg lock attempt. He's able to take his back, gets around, ground and pound, TKO, vicious. And then Jose Johnson took on Jack Cartwright, his last fight on Dana White's Contender Series, of course. In the first round, he gets a body lock slam, but then he gets reversed with a back trip, gets put in a Darce, but he's able to survive it. He gets up to his feet, and he's able to get into a double. Can't really do much with it, though. Then he eats a body shot from the clinch. He gets taken out of the double, gives up his back, but he's able to swim out, and he's able to get mount with some elbows toward the end of the round. So, he has a shot. Then in the second round, he eats a hook, and he gives up his back and the rear naked choke attempt, but he's able to defend. Then he just goes to his back, so pretty decent defense there. Then he's able to stop the shot, gets him to front headlock, lands a couple of knees in the clinch and an elbow, but then he gets shucked by in the clinch position, gives up his back, but he's able to swim out yet again, lands some ground and pound. So, he's decent with back defense in some situations. And then in the third round, he gets pressed with some hooks, and then he gets body locked, but he tries to go for the triangle. He's throwing something off of his back, but then he gets the underhook sweep, and then he's able to get into the crucifix position to the mount, but then he gets reversed with a triangle attempt. But then he's able to get the front headlock into the full mount, ground and pound to end the fight. So he ended a pretty strong, pretty scrambly guy. And, you know, he gets put in bad positions, but he doesn't get dominated necessarily. Or if he does, he doesn't get finished. So Jose Johnson, plus 235. Damone Blackshear, minus 290. Yeah, Jose Johnson, scrappy. He's scrambly, but I don't think he's going to win the fight. And the line's a little wide, to be honest, but I just think Damone Blackshear is going to control him too much with the wrestling. I think he has the ability to finish the fight. I think Jose Johnson is going to be really funky. He's going to scramble, but I think Damone Blackshear, by the second and third round, he's going to be able to put a solid pace on him, settle into the fight, and control him. So I'm going to go with Damone Blackshear. I don't like it, but it is what it is. Third fight of the night at 115 pounds, women's strawweight. Jacqueline AMORIM taking on Montserrat Ruiz. Ruiz coming off like a 2-year-long layoff. Jacqueline, she took on Sam Hughes her last fight in the first round. She gets a blast double, but she slides off the back. But then she's able to complete a crackdown off the fence. Rear naked choke attempt with a body triangle. Then in the second round, she skirts the fence. Her double attempt gets stuffed, though. She's able to shoot the single to the fence, though, and then throws a lat drop for leg lock. Doesn't really do much with it. I thought it was stupid, to be honest. But then she eats a knee, and her double attempt gets stuffed. She throws some sloppy straights, but then she eats a couple straight combinations back. So not too much going on either way. She just, you know, she had a very good first round. Second and third round, just got sloppy, just got tired. So she's used to finishing in the first round. Then Montserrat Ruiz took on Amanda Lemos her last fight. She got knocked out. Before that, she took on Cheyenne Buys. In the first round, they get into a clinch battle. She throws that headlock. It doesn't do much with it. Stays on top, though. Then in the second round, she eats some hooks whenever she's trying to go for the clinch. Then she's able to blitz to the clinch up against the fence, and then she throws the headlock yet again. Doesn't do anything with it, but she stays on top. So by default, she wins the round, I guess. Then in the third round, she looks for some step-in hooks and some lunge straights, but then she eats a couple straight shots in return. Then she eats some hooks into the clinch. She's able to get the headlock, but then she gets actually rolled through. She gets reversed. But then she's able to eventually gives up her back. But then she's able to sit out and get back on top there to end the round. But she was able to hit her move a couple times. Montserrat Ruiz, plus 205. Jacqueline AMORIM, minus 250. I'm going to go with Jacqueline AMORIM. Montserrat Ruiz has been off a while. All she has is a headlock, and she will probably get reversed at some point. And Jacqueline AMORIM is an absolute monster on top, especially if she takes her back. Throwing the headlock could potentially give Jacqueline her back. And, yeah, Jacqueline does slow down in the second and third round, but, you know, what's Montserrat? Like, I don't think Montserrat's going to catch her in the headlock. So I'm going to go with Jacqueline AMORIM on this one. Third fight of the night, 265 pounds men's heavyweight. We got a slop fest. Josh Parisian taking on Martin Buday. Josh Parisian took on Jamal Pogues his last fight in the first round. He misses an overhand. Gets taken down with the body lock trip. He lands a front face kick, though. But then he presses with the jab and an overhand, but he gets clinched up. Then he gets body locked after throwing a head kick. Then in the second round, he gets blast doubled, throwing his jab, steps in a little too far. But then he's able to stuff the shot, landed a decent uppercut. Then in the third round, he lands a lunge jab, but then he eats a counter hook for his trouble. He just oversteps. Then he steps in, lands a step-in jab, but he eats a 1-2, gets doubled off of it. Gets back up, he lands an overhand. And then he gets a single off the fence. Some ground and pound at the end. There wasn't enough time left, though, so he really didn't do much. And then Martin Buday took on Jake Collier his last fight in the first round. He lands a counter uppercut. They get into a slugfest, and then he just kind of walks into an overhand, but then he's able to get the clinch. Then he gets pressed with a couple jabs. But then he falls off of a kick. They kind of both kick each other at the same time. Gives up his back, but, you know, whatever. Bad first round. Second and third looked a lot better. In the second round, he lands a lead uppercut, followed up with some hooks. He lands some counter hooks, gets to the collar tie up against the fence. Then he hurts him with some knees to the body. Then in the third round, he lands an uppercut and left hook on the back foot, moving backwards. But then he gets pressed with a back hook and he gets clinched. Then he's able to stuff the trip attempt and gets him out. Lands some good ground and pound for like a minute, steals the fight. So good on him. Martin Buday, minus 200. Josh Parisian, plus 165. I'm going to go with Martin Buday. Don't like the line too much, but I think Martin Buday is going to be able to clinch this guy up. Josh Parisian, just like a little too slow. Martin Buday, you know, he gets going, then he like takes his breaks. But I just don't see what Josh Parisian's really going to do. He's not going to be able to take Martin Buday down. I can see Josh Parisian easily making a mistake, and Martin Buday would capitalize on it, get on top of him, you know. So I'm just going to go with Martin Buday. I don't like the line, but Martin Buday by decision, plus 175. He's had a lot of decisions. I like that. I'm going to go with Martin on this one. Fourth Fifth fight of the night at 145 pounds, men's featherweight, Francis Fire Marshall taking on UFC newcomer Isaac Dulgarian. Francis Marshall took on William Gomez his last fight. In the first round, he kind of stalks, pumps his jabs. They're a little too short, though, and he eats a couple body kicks in return. But then he's able to get the single up against the fence. But then in the second round, he lands the right cross. He lands some jabs and some straights. They're a little too short, though. And then he gets clipped with a couple leg kicks. And then he's able to land a counter hook, though, whenever off the leg kick attempts. But then in the third round, he gets a double off of a hook, and then he gets one hook in up against the fence, and he kind of drags him down, goes for a naked choke attempt, and then an arm triangle attempt. But it's a little too late, you know. He kind of lost the first 2 rounds, so. But, you know, he looked good in the third round, but Gomez was kind of tired. It's a fight where not a lot happened either way, to be honest. But then Isaac Dulgarian, he took on TJ Britton and FAC. In the first round, he lands an overhand to a double, gets both hooks in, rear naked choke attempt, transitions to mount, ground and pound, TKO. Guy's vicious. He likes elbows. And then before that, he took on Ray Ostrander. In the first round, he lands an overhand, gets a double, into some ground and pound. He's able to take his back, gets one hook in, transitions to mount yet again. Some nasty ground and pound. Then he's able to get the cross wrist where he has like half mount, or he kind of has this. He's kind of on his back. He's kind of on his stomach. Then he gets transitioned to full mount, and then he's able to get the arm triangle submission. So, yeah, dude's nasty. The only problem with him is he doesn't go past the first round. So, Isaac Dulgarian plus 140, Francis Marshall minus 170. Yeah, Francis Marshall can go all 3 rounds, but I don't know. I just like Isaac Dulgarian. Maybe he doesn't need to go second and third round. Maybe Dulgarian can submit him. Really strong wrestling. Plus 140. He's a newcomer. He's got nothing to lose. Can't really explain it. I'm going to go with Isaac Dulgarian plus 140. Sixth fight of the night at 155 pounds. Men's lightweight. This is the main event of the prelims at 155 pounds, men's lightweight. Terrence T-Rex McKinney making a quick turnaround, taking on Michael Breeden. Terrence McKinney trying to get one back. Before this, he took on Nazim Kasadikov. In the first round, they get into a clinch battle. He's able to get the inside trip against the fence. He's able to take his back. Gets a figure 4 around the body, but then he gets reversed right at the end. But he's still doing some good work, had some good control. Then he's able to land a 1-2, and then knees to the body whenever he gets pressed. He looks pretty good, but then, you know, I guess he can't do anything in the second round. In the second round, he eats a 1-2 off of his hook. He lands a jab and then shoots a low single. But then Sadikov is able to sprawl, and he's able to get around his back, and he gives up one hook, and then his arm gets trapped, and then he gets rear naked choked, and he can't even defend it with his one arm. So, I don't know. Sadikov did grab the fence. I don't know how much that plays into it, but just like McKinney didn't have a lot of urgency to finish that low single. So, I don't know, man. And then Mike Breeden took on Natan Levy his last fight. In the first round, he lands some hooks to the body lock, trip up against the fence. Then he presses with some counter overhands off of his jab. Off of his jab, he's waiting for him to jab him. He's able to land a couple overhands off of that. He's timing it pretty well. Looks pretty good early on with the hands. But then he lands some hooks and a straight right combination. But then he walks into a right hook. He gets taken out with the single at the end, though. Gives up his back. You can kind of see the momentum shift here. Then in the second round, he rips the body up against the fence. And then he goes to the open, but then he eats a couple straight shots though in the open. Then he gets taken out with the single leg treetop trip, and he gives up his back standing, and he gets mat returned a couple times. But then he's able to reverse the clinch position up against the fence. He presses forward with a couple straight shots, but then eats a counter left hook, and then eats a spinning back kick, and then he gets drugged down, gives up his back, eats some ground and pound to end the round. So he's having some success on the feet, but couldn't really do too much on the ground. Then in the third round, he presses forward with a couple hooks. But then he lands some crosses up against the fence, and he's able to stuff the single leg attempts, though. It looks like he's making a final push to maybe finish his fight. But then he lands some straights to the head, starts ripping the body. But then he gets dropped with a counter hook right at the end there. And his fight was over. So, didn't get knocked out, but, you know, he wasn't going to be able to finish him. Mike Breeden is plus 225. Terrence McKinney is minus 280. Yeah, I'm going to go with Mike Breeden. I just don't trust Terrence McKinney. Mike Breeden can go all 3 rounds. He's very scrappy. He can hit hard. He's going to have a first tough round ahead of him. But, you know, what's Terrence McKinney done in the second round recently? And that's a big line. And Terrence McKinney just fought not that long ago. How good a shape is he in? I don't know. But I think people are sleeping on Mike Breeden. I'm going to go with Mike Breeden plus 225. The whole fight to go over 1.5. Plus 210 if you like that. But I'm going to go with Mike on this one. Seventh fight of the night. The main event of the prelims, 135 pounds, JP Buys taking on Marcus McGHee. Should be a fun one at bantamweight. Yet again, JP Buys coming back up from 125. Didn't go his way. In his last fight, he took on Cody Durden at flyweight. In the first round, he gets pressed. He eats an overhand, but then he gets clinched to the fence. But then he eats a counter hook. Whenever he's throwing his 1-2, then he gets dropped, and he eats some ground and pound, gets TKO'd. He's had chin problems, cutting down. Certainly didn't help. Before that, he took on Montel Jackson at 135. In the first round, he gets a single to the body lock into mount. Then a rear naked choke attempt. Looks pretty good early on. But then he gets put in a standing guillotine, gets reversed from the position. But then he gets doubled, and he pulls the guillotine yet again. Eats some ground and pound. You could tell he's kind of like desperate at this point already. And then the second round, he gets dropped with the 1-2. He tries to go for the Kimura, but he gives up his back. He's able to get up to his feet, but then he gives his back standing for a while. Then back on range, he gets dropped with a cross, throwing his front kick. And then he eats a hook, and then he's able to clinch, but then he gets taken out with the trip. And third round kind of gives the same. So he has trouble staying on his feet, to be honest. And he's trouble taking punches, unfortunately. Then Marcus McGHee, he took on Journey Newson in his last fight. In the first round, he moves in and out. He throwing some kicks to the body, into the legs. And then he lands a couple jump knees, and he's able to stuff the takedown attempts. Lands a couple lunge overhands. Kind of takes his time in this round. Then in the second round, he lands some lunge crosses. He's able to stuff the takedown attempts again. Then they get into a couple clinch battles. He's doing fine. Then he's able to drop him with a straight left, and then gets a rear naked choke with one hook. Gets a submission. So he's just waiting for something big to happen, making something big happen. He gets it done. Marcus McGHee minus 355. JP Buys plus 280. This line's a little crazy, but maybe it's not. I'm going to go with Marcus McGHee. JP Buys' chin is just suspect. I'm sorry, it sucks, but it's a reality. And Marcus McGHee, he hits really hard. And I think he's fast and elusive, and he's a lot bigger than JP Buys. If he gets his hands on him, JP's going to have trouble. Marcus McGHee minus 355. Marcus McGHee by submission plus 600. Not a bad play, but I'm definitely going with Marcus. First fight on the main card at 185 pounds, men's middleweight. Josh FREMD taking on Jamie Pickett. Josh FREMD coming off a good performance against Cedric Dumas. And Jamie Pickett, let's be honest, he's fighting for his job. So, but I think it's a winnable fight for either guy. So, should be interesting. Josh FREMD took on Cedric Dumas his last fight. In the first round, he eats a hook and a head kick and a cross, but then he kind of backs out of range, recollects himself. Then he lands, starts pressing some jabs. He's able to land some leg kicks. And then he rocks him with the check left hook. And then he's able to get a nice double leg and right into side control, and then back on the feet, he lands some jabs and some leg kicks, and then he's able to land a lead hook off of Cedric's kick. Then in the second round, he's double jabs, and he lands a right hook, and then he gets a hip toss, very violent hip toss, right into half guard, but he gets reversed, and Cedric has his back, but he's able to swim right off. And then he's able to go for the top guillotine when Cedric has his back against the fence and gets a submission. So, looks pretty good in the scrambles, looks better on the feet too. Jamie Pickett took on Dennis Tiulian in his last fight. In the first round, he lands some lunge jabs. His double attempt gets stuffed. He tries to go for the body lock lift. He uses a lot of energy, can't complete it. Then he eats a hook off of his jab. Then he gets cut off on the cage, and he eats a hook flurry. Then they kind of get into a firefight. And he lands a couple straights, and then he's able to land a body kick, though, so came out looking okay. And then in the second round, he gets walked down, though, and he eats a body kick, and then he eats a 1-2 whenever he's circling, and he eats a couple elbows inside the clinch. He kind of stumbles into the clinch and eats some elbows. Then he gets pressured, and he eats a couple straights, and he's looking for some counter hooks, but he's just taking a little too long to find his shot. But then he eats some straights whenever he's moving straight back. He gets dropped with an elbow in the clinch, and he doesn't really take shots well. And then he's able to touch him with a couple straights while he's moving back, but nothing of power. He needs to hit him with some power to keep him off him. He can't do it. Then he initiates the clinch, eats more elbows and some knees, gets dropped, and then gets TKO'd via ground and pound. So, yeah, he's just kind of stumbling over himself toward the end and was desperate for the clinch, and not a good situation. So, Jamie Pickett plus 280, Josh FREMD minus 355. I think this line's overpriced, I'm gonna be honest with you, but I think Josh FREMD can do it. I think he's getting a lot better, and he does have that bad habit of sticking his neck out on a single leg. But Jamie Pickett, not really a submission guy, and I think Josh FREMD's aware of that, so I think he can get it done. I think he looks a lot better on the feet. I think we'll be able to get a couple takedowns, and Jamie Pickett just looks a little bit sloppy, and Josh FREMD you can tell that he keeps in his mind that he needs to have good form. So I'm going to go with Josh FREMD. I know the line's a lot, but Josh FREMD by submission plus 240, not a bad play. I'm going to go Josh on this one. Westmoreland County. Next fight, at 185 pounds, yet again, men's middleweight. AJ Dobson taking on NCHUKWI. This could be a violent fight. Could be the most boring fight of the night. We don't know. AJ Dobson took on Arnaud Petrosian in his last fight. In the first round, he lands a straight right off of a kick, but then he's able to land a 1-2, but then he eats a counter hook. But then he eats some overhands and some body kicks. But then he's able to land an overhand in the pocket. He's able to catch a kick, and he takes his back standing. Can't do a whole lot with it, though, but gets some movement on top. Then in the second round, he eats a cross off of his jab, though. He kind of clips him with some hooks and some overhands whenever he's pressing forward. He's able to complete the double leg off the fence, or shoots it off the fence, gets him down real quick, but can't really finish it completely, and it used a lot of energy. Then in the third round, he lands a short left off of the counter off the cross. Then he eats some 1-2s and some leg kicks, and he just didn't get going this fight. And Petrosian was able to find his range and just keep touching him, and AJ was like throwing bigger shots and just making himself tired. So, NCHUKWI took on Carlos Olberg his last fight. First round, he gets rocked with a jab and then just gets TKO'd with a couple follow-up shots. I guess Carlos Olberg knocks everybody out. Before that, he took on Azamat Mirzakhanov in the first round. He eats an overhand at range, and then he eats a hook, throwing a naked body kick. But then he's able to land a 1-2, counter off of his overhand. Then he's able to land a body kick into the clinch. Then in the second round, he gets the tie clinch, lands a couple knees to the body, and then he's able to land a jab, followed up with a nice body kick. Finally starts to find his rhythm. Then he walks into a couple hooks and some overhands. Then he keeps up his guard, though, so they're not really getting through flush. But then he eats a 1-2 counter off of his jab. But then he's able to land a jab, rips the body, follows up with a head kick. Really nice combination. Looks like the tide's going to turn for him. But then in the third round, he's able to land a head kick. But then he eats a counter overhand whenever he's throwing his cross. Then he eats an overhand and a jump knee and just gets knocked out of nowhere. He just gets backed up and then kind of has his head down. And Azamat just jump knee to the chin. So, yep. Tough one for him. NCHUKWI, minus 140. AJ Dobson, plus 120. This is a close fight. I would say it might be a coin flip. NCHUKWI, he's, I would say he's a little more accurate probably than AJ Dobson, but he's slower, doesn't have as much output. And AJ Dobson, sometimes he has trouble going, period. But I think he's a little more fast. And I think, if he can just keep touching Tafon, and I think he might be able to take him down too, or at least win the clinch battles. It's a close one, but also he's a slight underdog. So I'm going to go with AJ. 10th fight of the night at 115 pounds, women's strawweight. Poliana VIANA taking on Yasmin Lucindo. Could be action-packed. Kind of excited for it. Poliana VIANA took on Jinyu Fryer last fight, first round. She eats a 1-2, but then she lands a counter hook, gets a bunch of counter hooks, knockout. Take that what you will. Before that, she took on Tabitha Ricci, though. Tough one. In the first round, her knee gets caught, but then she pulls guillotine to no avail. But then she lands some jabs, standing guillotine again, pulls it, doesn't do anything. Second round, she eats a leg kick, and then she's able to land a back fist off the hook, though. It doesn't land completely flush, but not a bad one. But then she gets doubled off of 1-2 at the end. Can't really do much, or she keeps trying to look for submission instead of escaping. Then in the third round, she presses forward, but she misses some hooks, and she gets clinched. She gets pressure with a couple jabs. Then she's able to stuff a shot, gets a chin whip, and could get on top, but then she keeps the front head whenever they're standing, and then she just kind of feeds her hips. And then she gets taken down with a double leg because of that. Then she's looking for the guillotine again. So just bad ring IQ. I don't know what that was about, but she could have either reversed or escaped. So yeah, I don't know. She's hunting those submissions, I guess. And then Yasmin Lucindo took on Brogan Walker her last fight. In the first round, she landed straight right off the hook. And she lands a couple hooks off a leg kick. And she's able to land a counter hook off of her front kick. Then in the second round, she kind of hangs around on the outside, but she gets clinched. But then she's able to break free. And then she lands a couple straight 1-2s off of her hooks. Then she gets a body lock trip off of a kick. And then goes right in the mount and does some work. Then in the third round, she's able to land some lead overhand rights. And then she lands a couple jump knees. She lands some wide counter hooks. And kind of powerful. Yasmin Lucindo, minus 190. Poliana VIANA, plus 160. I'm going to go with Poliana VIANA because it's lower level women's MMA, decent sized underdog. Poliana VIANA is either on or she's not. And, for that price tag, she could be on. Yasmin's really young, doesn't have that many fights. Poliana VIANA has been in there. Tabitha Ricci is pretty good in the top 15. So I'm going to go with her. You want to go Poliana VIANA by submission. Not a bad play. But since it's underdog money, I'm just going to stick with it. So I'm going to go with Poliana VIANA. Feature fight of the night. I'm excited for this one. 205 pounds, men's light heavyweight. Khalil Rountree Jr. taking on Chris Daukaus. Chris Daukaus making his 205 debut from heavyweight. Khalil Rountree Jr. I think he's like number 15-ish, something like that. So, yeah, kind of a big fight for either guy, I guess, to get into the rankings. Khalil Rountree took on NCHUKWI his last fight. In the first round, he lands a cross, then a lead right hook at range. But then he misses a couple looping hooks. He misses big a couple times. But then he gets touched with some jabs at range. But then he's able to cut him off on the fence. But then he gets cut off on the fence and eats a couple uppercuts. NCHUKWI had really good pressure, but then he rushes with a couple hooks in the pocket. Then in the second round, he gets clipped with some crosses and some straights whenever he's pumping his jabs. Then he eats a couple jabs. He kind of shells up and stands there for a little bit. And Jacoby's just touching him, not really doing a ton of damage, but he's landing. But then he's able to land a leg kick and a looping left hook, though, toward the end of the round. So enough to keep it competitive. Both rounds pretty close. Then in the third round, he lands an overhand left whenever Jacoby raises his knee. Kind of like hurts him a little bit. But then he eats a counter 1-2 whenever he's loading up his hook. But then he's able to land a straight left off of his leg kick. But then he eats an uppercut whenever he's defending a single leg. But solid defense, though. But then he's able to rock him with an overhand left, just like kind of winds up like a windmill. But then he eats a 1-2 when he's loading up at the end there. Pretty close. I think he kind of wobbled him a little bit in the third round. And split decision victory. You know, I'm comfortable with it going either way. But, you know, it's a close fight. And then Chris Daukaus took on Josina Rosenstrike at heavyweight. In the first round, he lands a cross, but then he gets rocked with the counter hook and a jab. And then he gets kind of dropped from that, and then he just gets swarmed with hooks and gets KO'd. So, tough one. Then before that, he took on Curtis Blades at heavyweight. In the first round, he lands a right cross off of Curtis's jab, but then he eats a counter 1-2. When he's coming in with his hands down and eats a jab when he throws his hook. Then he gets touched with a straight right when he throws his overhand. Then in the second round, he eats a straight right whenever he's loading up his right hook and just gets knocked out. So, I don't know, man. This was like the first time Curtis Blades was a striker. So, it was just a weird fight. Chris Daukaus plus 140 and Khalil Rountree minus 170. I'm going to go with Khalil Rountree. Chris Daukaus might be able to pull the upset, but I never like guys going down in weight. This one I think is a little different because, you know, he's a small heavyweight, so I don't think his chin's going to be that compromised. But also, for your first fight down a weight class, Khalil Rountree Jr., not the best guy to fight because that guy hits like a truck and he's very violent. So I'm just going to go with Khalil Rountree. Chris Daukaus might be able to pull the upset. Like he has looked really good at heavyweight at times against low-level guys. Khalil Rountree, you know, right at the end of the rankings, so I don't know. I think it'll be a fun fight, though. I'm excited. A big win for either guy. But I'm going to have Khalil on this one. It's going to be violent, though. Co-main event of the evening at 145 pounds, men's featherweight. Cub Swanson taking on Hakeem Dawodu. Dawodu making a return. Cub Swanson making a return to the weight class. Should be interesting. This is just a pride fight for each guy. Just want to get a victory, get back on the winning track. I get it. Cub Swanson took on Darren Elkins, his last fight at 145. Before this, he was at 135 against Jonathan Martinez. Didn't go his way. He got beat up pretty bad, got finished. But against Darren Elkins, in the first round, he lands a lead up hook, but then he gets pressed backwards with an overhand right. He has his hands down, though, and he lands a couple lunge jabs, kind of sneaky. Then he lands a right hook off of his straight, and he's able to rock him with the jumping right hook, which is inventive. And then he lands a step-in jab and then a right hook and drops him with that, and then he's able to land a spinning back kick to the head, and then the ref just stops it, TKO. So, because Darren Elkins is a zombie. So, yeah, pretty good. He just kept his distance, picked his shots, didn't rush anything, looked really good. And, you know, Darren Elkins, not the most skilled guy, but really tough guy, hard guy to finish, and he got it done. So, it's impressive. And then Hakeem Dawodu took on Julian Erosa his last fight. In the first round, he walks into a couple hooks, and he eats some uppercuts in the clinch, and then he gets rocked with the right hook. He's kind of leaning into the clinch a little bit, you know. Julian Erosa caught him a bunch there. But then he's looking for some jabs, but then his straight rights get countered, though. But then he gets rocked with a straight right off of overhand, loads up a little too much. And it looks like he's just waiting a little too long to throw. But then in the second round, he lands some jabs standing at range. He gets body locked, though, off a step-in 1-2, and then gives up the backpack and gives up the figure 4 rear naked choke attempt for the majority of the round, so it's tough. But then in the third round, he's able to touch him with some right crosses. Then he eats an uppercut whenever he's trying to go for the clinch. Again, kind of like stumbling into it at times. Then he's able to rip the body, but then he eats an uppercut. But he's able to land a jab. Then he gets taken out of the double off of a lunging overhand, and then he gives up his back for the rest of the round. So he gets up with like 10 seconds left, but it didn't matter. So yeah, Hakeem Dawodu minus 230, Cub Swanson plus 190. The line's a little wide, but I just can't bet Cub Swanson. You know, he's almost 40 years old. He's been in the sport for a very, very long time. He's been in a lot of wars. He's taken a lot of damage. Hakeem Dawodu, you know, didn't look good his last fight, but he's taken some time off. Time to reassess. He was like an exciting prospect, so I think he can get back on track. Hakeem Dawodu, not really a big power puncher guy, so maybe it goes a distance, but I just think Hakeem's going to be faster. I think he's going to land more shots. Cub Swanson is going to look good early on, but I think Hakeem's going to be able to just stick and move a whole lot. And, you know, I don't know. I don't really know who has the advantage on the ground, but I could see Hakeem just like hitting a blast double or something like that and mixing it up. So minus 230, a little pricey, but I'm going to go with Hakeem on this one. Main event of the evening at 170 pounds, men's welterweight. You got a banger here. Vicente, the silent assassin Luque at number 10, taking on Rafael dos Anjos. His second fight back up at welterweight. And, you know, I would say it's an important fight for either guy. It's very important for Vicente Luque. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He really needs a win. But if Rafael dos Anjos can get a win over Vicente Luque, the number 10 guy, then he might be trying to make a second run at welterweight. But if he loses, I don't think it's that big a deal. He's had a great career anyway. He's already a legend, so... But should be fun, should be violent. But, yeah, definitely some stakes for both guys. Vicente Luque took on Jeff Neal his last fight a little while ago, about over a year. In the first round, he looks to crowd him with the hook combination, but then he gets rocked with the counter 1-2, and then he eats a flurry up against the fence. Then he walks him down, but then he eats a couple counter hooks. And Jeff Neal hits really hard. Then he gets dropped with the left cross whenever he's throwing it straight. And, yeah, I didn't think Vicente Luque could, like, get dropped that much, but... Jeff Neal was hurting him, man. But then in the second round, he lands a head kick at range. He touches him with some jabs and some body kicks, but then he gets taken down with a single, but pops right back up on the fence. So pretty solid there. But then he eats a couple straights up against the fence. But then he's able to rip the body, lands a nice leg kick. Does better in the second round. Calms down a little bit, starts landing his shots. Close one, you could give it to him. Then in the third round, he eats a straight left whenever he's circling on the outside, but then he eats a cross whenever he's throwing his hook. Just kind of loads up a little bit and kind of steps in a little too much. I think it's rocked with a straight left whenever he's coming into the pocket, and then he eats a flurry and just gets KO'd. He eats like 7 uppercuts in a row up against the fence. And like the punches that Jeff Neal throws, like they look hard, but they don't look like they would wobble Vicente Luque, that bad. Because I thought Vicente Luque had an anvil chin, but I guess it's got to crack at some point. Mix that with Jeff Neal, hits like a truck. So, yeah, it's just a very shocking performance. But, I mean, like, shocking fight. But Jeff Neal had an amazing performance. And then Rafael, he took on Bryan Barberena his last fight at 170. In the first round, he circles on the outside. He's able to get the snatch single into the clinch up to the fence. Keeps that underhook, and then he's able to get double underhooks. Gets the outside trip right into full mount. Gets the arm triangle from full mount. Works it for a little bit, but he can't really get it. Then he's able to get his back with one hook, grabs that cross wrist, just maintains superior control. Then in the second round, he gets pressed with some hooks, and he gets clinched, but then he's able to circle off there. Then he's able to reshoot, gets a double leg off the fence, but he's not able to hold him down, but he gets right back up into the clinch in the fence. And then he gets double unders again, gets that trip takedown again right into half guard, and then he's able to take his back, gets both hooks in with a rear naked choke submission. So, yeah, just kind of took his time. Didn't do a whole lot of striking, didn't really need to, and yeah, just calm, cool, collected, got the rear naked choke, and because, you know, Bryan Barberena is not a great grappler, but he is like a guy who gets in a slugfest a lot, and RDA didn't want to play that game, so pretty smart on him. RDA is minus 120, Vicente Luque is minus 100. You can flip a coin. A lot of concern with Vicente, but, you know, he's taking a lot of time off. I think, you know, his brain's as healed as it can be. RDA coming up from 155, not a huge 170 pounder, so I think that helps. And, you know, RDA, you know, he's at the end of his career, so. And, you know, Vicente, his weakness in the past has been like getting taken down, like with Bilal. But, you know, RDA, he's not like a takedown artist. Like, he has takedowns, but I think Vicente could defend it enough, you know. I think he'll be able to be okay in those clinch situations. And then, if you remember, whenever Michael Chiesa had him in a rear naked choke, Vicente was able to reverse it and put Michael Chiesa in a rear naked choke and submitted him. So, he's solid on the ground, but he just doesn't show it a lot. So, I think Vicente would be okay in the scramble situations. I think he hits harder. So, yeah, minus 100, slight underdog, but honestly, flip a coin. I just think there's more in favor of Vicente. I think he's gotten more ahead of him, hoping that his brain issue is better, but yeah, I'm going to go with him. I think, you know, he can get back on the right track and continue an upward trajectory. But should be a fun fight either way. All right, everybody. Thanks for riding with me. Appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff. Appreciate it. Leave a comment down below. A horrible week last week, but I did my research and just, like, not overthinking things and, you know, just really picking who I think is going to win. But if I see an egregious line, I pick against it. But, you know, hopefully we get it done this week. Let's see some upsets. Let's see some violence. And let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone.